He arrived smiling, clutching a camera, claiming he wanted to tell Africa's story. He seemed harmless, but no one realized he wasn't there to film a documentary. He was searching for secrets. His goal wasn't truth but targets. It all started quietly. A man with fair skin, clean shoes, and a French accent landed at Ouagadougou International Airport. He carried a tourist visa and a press badge clipped to his shirt. He told customs he was a freelance journalist, studying Burkina Faso security. His story was that he wanted to share local voices with the world. He spoke fluent French, smiled politely, and admired President Ibrahim Traore's courage. It's rare to see young African leaders stand up to the West. He said, people believed him. Why wouldn't they? He was courteous. He offered water to taxi drivers, gave pens to children, bought tea at village markets, took pictures of sunsets and goats. But behind his camera, he was capturing something else. In the weeks that followed, he visited places most reporters avoided. He stayed near military camps, walked along rail lines, and asked guards about routes and shipments. When a soldier joked, "You ask more questions than our own leader," the man laughed and said, "That's how journalists learn." He stayed in a guest house on the city's edge. No one saw him drinking or partying, but they noticed odd things. Every night, he made international calls, never using local SIM cards. He didn't post his stories online or tag anyone. He claimed his work would appear in a European report, yet no articles, no bylines surfaced in France. At first, locals dismissed him as eccentric, but one night, spotting him near a restricted radio tower changed everything. Burkina intelligence began watching quietly. They tracked his movements and cloned his SIM without touching his phone. They monitored his emails, texts, and voice messages. What they found was not journalism, it was espionage. When President Traore saw the evidence with his own eyes, he didn't order a raid. Instead, he chose a smarter move. He invited the spy to answer questions on camera, in front of the nation. News cameras went quiet as the stage was set. A small press conference was announced in Ouagadougou, hosted by the president's office. But it was different from usual. No press kits, no printed questions, no BBC or CNN reporters, just a few city journalists and one last-minute guest, Mr. Julien Morel, a freelancer from France. He arrived alone, wearing beige trousers, a white shirt, and the same press badge from earlier. No tripod, no cameraman, just a shoulder bag and a notebook. He had no idea what was coming. As he entered, he greeted the guards confidently. "I'm here for the president's briefing," he said. The soldier nodded and pointed him inside. But behind the uniform, the soldier was watching him closely. Inside, the room was oddly quiet. Cameras were already rolling. A microphone stood at the center. Only 6 chairs lined up for reporters. Julien sat down casually, opened his notebook, and looked around. No one smiled or welcomed him. The room felt cold. He ignored it. He thought it was normal. Maybe they were nervous to see a European journalist. Then the door opened sharply. President Ibrahim Traore walked in, calm and straight-backed. He didn't wear a suit but looked serious. He was dressed in military fatigues, not a suit. He looked alert, not tired or rushed. Julien stepped forward and offered his hand. "Mr. President, it's an honor." Traore shook it firmly and replied, "You've asked many questions about us, Morel. Today, I will answer. But first, I have some questions of my own." Julien blinked, a moment of doubt creeping in. Was this a trap? He forced a relaxed smile. Sure, that's what interviews are for. But this wouldn't be a typical interview. Ibrahim Traore hadn't invited a journalist. He had invited a spy. and the next few minutes would uncover how deep the betrayal ran. The camera's red light glowed softly. 6 reporters Saturday quietly, notebooks open, cans still. In the center, President Ibrahim Traore stood tall, calm, and unaccompanied by papers. Julian adjusted his collar, feeling out of control. Usually, he ran interviews, but today, everything felt different. Traore wasn't smiling or speaking about policies. He was studying Julian closely. Monsieur Morel, Traore started. You've been in our country for 23 days, correct? Yes, sir. Julian answered steadily. I've been gathering stories, filming locals, trying to understand. Understand what? Traore asked, cold but controlled. Julian hesitated. The challenges your people face: security, infrastructure, foreign ties. Traore nodded slowly and then turned to the side. A soldier stepped up, holding a sealed folder. You've visited 9 military zones, Traore said. Recorded 3 strategic sites disguised as interviews with guards. Julian's eyes widened. The room felt colder. I'm a journalist, he said quickly. That's what we do. We go where stories are. Traore moved closer, his tone sharp. Is it normal for journalists to send encrypted emails at 2 a.m. to servers in Abidjan? Julian Franci, another journalist, turned, clearly shocked. The soldier held up a photo. Julian at night, laptop open, encrypted email on screen. Then more pictures appeared. Julian outside a radio tower, phone in hand, and screenshots of messages sent to a man linked to Burkina's intelligence and a French military contractor working undercover in West Africa. Julian's face went pale. I can explain, he whispered. Please do, Traore said, eyes unblinking. Julian was silent, no longer being asked questions. Now, he was under suspicion. Traore faced the cameras. This man claimed to understand our people, but in truth, he came to record our weaknesses, track our movements, and send our secrets abroad. He didn't come to tell our story. He came to write his own. He paused. Let the people decide if this is journalism or betrayal. The silence that followed was deafening. Julian had come to expose Africa, but now, it was Africa exposing him. Julian's hand trembled as he reached for his bag. The room stayed quiet. The cameras kept rolling. The moment shifted from a simple press event to a show trial. Julian was the focus. Mr. Morel, Traore's voice was calm. Do you deny these photos, messages, and recordings? Julian opened his mouth but said nothing. Sweat beaded on his forehead. The plan, whatever it was falling apart. Another soldier entered, carrying Julian's confiscated laptop. Traore nodded, and the screen flickered on. We want to show you something, he said to everyone. The projector flickered to life. Whoa, it showed a live map of Burkina Faso with pins on oil routes, mine sites, and 2 unmarked military storage depots. The folder was labeled for review. Côte d'Ivoire cleaned, Traore said. The room gasped in surprise. Julian shook his head slowly. I didn't mean it was just notes. I didn't send them. So explain this. Traore cut him off. He held up a printed email. Target movements are predictable. Security near Westgate is weak and can be monitored for future asset placement. Julian's face grew pale. No, that's fake. It was sent from your encrypted email at 2:17 a.m. from a guest house in Zone 3. He paused. We don't forge evidence, Mr. Morel. The local journalists stared in shock. Some whispered prayers. Others looked at the white man who once seemed confident but now shook as his lies fell apart. He came here with a plan, but he had underestimated the country, and he had underestimated its intelligence. Most of all, He had underestimated the men across from him. President Traore stepped back to the microphone slowly. He wasn't angry. He didn't shout. He just looked into the camera and said, "This is what they send us. Not help, not apologies, but spies with cameras calling themselves journalists. They think we will smile and stay quiet, but that time is over." Then he turned to Julian one last time. "You came for stories. Now, you are the story." Without hesitation, he gave the order. Escort him out. 2 guards moved forward. Julian Morel didn't fight. He lowered his head and left as he came in. This time, he wasn't holding a camera. He was in the frame. By sunset, the room was empty. Cameras were packed up, chairs folded, but the moment between President Ibrahim Traore and Julian Morel had already left the room. It spread everywhere. The first video clip appeared on social media just an hour later. It showed Traore calmly asking, "Do you call this journalism or betrayal?" Then came images of the laptop screen, military maps, intercepted emails, and finally, the white men walking out in silence, flanked by guards. The internet erupted. People in Burkina Faso watched the clip again and again. One man shouted, "He caught a spy live on TV." A grandmother near Kaya whispered, "We waited so long to see a president stand tall." Across West Africa, the video spread quickly. TikTok, WhatsApp, Facebook, everyone saw it. In Burkina Faso, shops turned off their music. Instead, they played the press conference. Young people gathered around their phones, replaying it. Older men listened quietly through radios. One woman in the market said, "They used to come with guns. Now they come with cameras." The televised coverage was even bigger. The same clip played repeatedly, but it wasn't just about the walk-up. They showed everything. Photos of Julian outside military zones, the laptop with maps of sensitive areas, the email to a contact in Abidjan titled "Palace Entry Point Non-Visible." No one could deny what was shown, not even France. Still, they tried to deny it. In Paris, they issued a short statement. They said they were watching but promised fair treatment for their citizen. They didn't mention the evidence though. They didn't deny it and didn't explain it, because they couldn't. Meanwhile, across West Africa, a different feeling spread. It was no longer about catching a spy. It was about seeing the trap and breaking free. Across borders, people shared a simple message. Enough was enough. Julian Morel, the one who came with a smile and a camera, was now under lock and key. No interviews, no press passes, no audience. He asked to talk to a lawyer from the French embassy, but President Traore gave a clear answer. The case was bigger than any one man. It belonged to Africa. In an instant, the man who came to expose others became the one being exposed. The press conference ended. Julian Morel was no longer in the room, not out of the country, but behind bars in a military detention center. A site was waiting under lock and key as the world watched closely. The footage spread everywhere, reaching every corner of the continent. Yet President Ibrahim Traore stayed silent. For 3 days, he refused to speak to the press. No words were needed, since the evidence spoke loudly for itself. On the 4th day, he stepped out of his palace. He didn't go to a podium or talk to foreign journalists. Instead, he faced his people in a simple school courtyard. Children Saturday on the ground. Farmers stood at the back. Traders, drivers, students, and soldiers filled the space. No scripts were handed out. No notes in his hands. He stood in the bright sun and said, "They've watched us for years not to help, but to control everything we say, build, or dream." He paused, then added, "They sent one man with a camera, but it was no camera. It was a weapon aimed at our future." He looked over the crowd and went on, That man claimed to be a journalist, but his memory card held maps, more than interviews. It had more targets than quotes, more bases than facts. He didn't come to tell our story. He came to steal it. Silence fell over the crowd. Some nodded, others cried. Then he said something that would echo through Africa. To the next person who comes with a smile and hidden wires, beware, do not mistake our silence for ignorance. We see you now. That one line sparked a movement. Walls in Ouagadougou were painted with the words, "We see you now." Videos on TikTok from Ghana and Nigeria echoed the message. It spread into university halls from Dar to Dar es Salaam. No arrests outside Julian Moral. No attacks on embassies. No chaos. Just one quiet message delivered with calm strength. We learned how to hold a camera. Now, we know how to aim it back at you. That's how it ended. No gunfire. No shouting. Just one man caught in his own game. And a continent reminded of its strength. This time, Africa refused to stay quiet.